Hey, and what is going on, guys? It's Scion Life back here with another video, and today, since you guys liked my last 5 underrated JDM car video so much, I decided to make a part 2. So, if you haven't seen that one, go ahead and click up there. You can watch the first one before you move on to this one. But you already know the deal. We're just going to be naming off 5 underrated cars that you should look out for. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get on with the video. Alright, so diving right into the first car, we are going to be talking about the Toyota Caldina GT4. And now in the United States and in Canada as well, this is a pretty obscure nameplate. So basically, just to explain this car to you guys, it's pretty much a Corolla on steroids. But to you rally fans out there, especially you Toyota rally fans, the GT4 moniker is not going to be a surprise to you. You pretty much already know what this is going to be. So it's based off of the Toyota Matrix, and what they did is they beefed it up with a rally suspension. They dropped in a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine from the rally car it is homologated over, and it makes somewhere around 300 horsepower. Now, this car is a hatch, it's 4-wheel drive, it's also got 4 doors, but this is a serious competitor, or used to be a very serious competitor in the World Rally Championship. And you can find these cars for under $5,000 today. There's a specific N edition which comes with a limited slip differential, and those cars are also around 5 grand. But this car is super sick. You get a rally engine, rally suspension. It's basically a rally car for the road, and it is freaking awesome. And now the next car on this list is going to be something that y'all are probably pretty familiar with. It's going to be the Nissan Skyline R31 GTS R, which is a homologated car which raced in the Super Silhouette and the Group A Touring Car Series, but they made 500 units for the road, and this car was exclusive to Japan, but now you can import them in since it was debuted in 1985. The 20-year rule in the United States, or 25-year rule, I can't really remember, but you can get these cars imported in. But basically, this was based off of the actual race car, which they made a GTS model, which was kind of like the base. And then there was the special edition GTS-R, which came with a tuned and tweaked RB20 DET-R inline 6. And this car obviously had all-wheel drive. It is a Nissan GT-R after all. Now, this car also came with some special aerodynamic body panels and whatnot. You know, the fender flares, the wing, there's some extra vents on the car. It looks super cool. And, you know, the suspension was beefed up. And this car is a little bit more expensive than the latter car that we just talked about, the Toyota. This car can be found for around $25,000, which, when you think about it, for a special edition R31, basically the GTR, as they did not make a GTR for the R31. For those of you who did not know, they only made the GTS model. So the GTS-R was basically the GTR for this model, and the fact that you can pick them up for around 25 grand is a great deal, and I feel like a lot of people do not even recognize that this car is still out there. And now, as we jump into the third car on this list, I just want to point out that this is probably my favorite on this list. So we're going to be talking about the Mazda Yunos Cosmo. And for those of you who know, the Cosmo nameplate was associated for Mazda in the 80s and 90s as awesome luxury and very high-tech and good rotary power cars. And this car is no different. In fact, it steps it up a little bit. So this car went on sale in the year 1990, and this car was intended to be the best rotary car that Mazda ever produced, and I gotta say, it's not far off. So this car came with a very unique engine at the time, and still even today, I guess. It came with a twin turbocharged 3-rotor Wankel engine, which put down 300 horsepower in the year 1990 in Japan, which is absolutely unheard of. This car was an absolute beast. Not to mention, on the interior, it was very focused on luxury. It was one of the first cars to even have a GPS navigation system. This car is completely decked out. It has the best in-car tech that Japan in the 90s had to offer. This car is, very good looking. I love the way this car looks. The interior is awesome. The power is awesome. It has a great motor where, for a rotary, not exactly the most reliable thing to put into a car, but great power nonetheless, especially for the year 1990. And this car was very futuristic, extremely luxurious, and came with a very powerful motor. And it costed way less than the competing FT generation of the RX-7 at the time. Today you can find these cars for under 15 grand sometimes. Usually they sit around 20,000. But for the awesome sound and performance of the 3-rotor Wankel, I do believe this is the best deal on this list and is probably the most underrated JDM car on this list, maybe even on the entire market right now. And now for the fourth car on this list, we're going to be talking about the Mitsubishi Galant VR4, aka the father of the Lancer Evolution. This car in the 90s was an absolute beast. The VR4 was only sold in Japan. The regular Galant was sold in North America, so it's a little bit more obscure here in the States and in Canada, but you should be able to import these cars now as they've been around for a very long time. Now, these cars are iconic for their rally heritage. This car came with a 4G63T, which, as you guys know, is one of the greatest rally engines of all time. This car competed in the WRC, obviously a more souped up race version, and it comes with all-wheel drive, a turbo, and it comes with the power plant, the 4G63T, which I just mentioned a second ago, which was later put into the Lancer Evo 1. Now, this car is an absolute legend for being able to handle power, and I just don't see a lot of these cars in the States. I know that they sold a lot of them in Japan, and a lot of them do stay over there, but I feel like there should be a lot more VR4s imported over here on this side of the Pacific because these cars are awesome. They're priced around 17,000. I presume if you imported one in, it would probably be closer to 20, but 20 grand for legendary rally heritage and the performance to back it up with the potential for some awesome tuning. This is really probably the best deal on this list. And now for the final car on this list, and one that gets lost in the Nissan lineup a lot. It is the Nissan Fairlady 200 ZR. That's probably not a nameplate you have heard for a very long time, if ever. But this car was the last straight 6 V car. Came with a 3-liter V6, which could get 177 horsepower and put down 167 pound-feet of torque. And this car truly was awesome for the time period. It was produced in 1988, and it was produced to compete with cars like the Galant that I mentioned earlier. And it may not have had as much power, but it could definitely handle and hold its own on a track or on a mountain pass. This car is a true JDM legend. It's hardly ever talked about today, but it's the last straight 6 Z car. It's really a piece of history. And if you ever have the chance to drive one or even just pick one up to build, this is really an awesome car to have. And it's something that you would not see a lot here in the United States. I'd also like to point out that even in the time period in the late 1980s, this car did not get a lot of attention because this was kind of when JDM car culture was picking up and Japanese cars were becoming, kind of the king of car brands, especially during the 90s. So they were starting to pick up in this time period, and this car really just got lost. And I'd really like to see one of these in the United States because they are really awesome. They handle really well. And, it just sucks that this car does not get the attention that I think it deserves. And that concludes part 2 of my 5 underrated JDM car video. And I really hope I was able to give you guys some insight on some new cars that maybe you've heard of but didn't know much about, or some that you may have never heard of before. But, I thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a like, and if you did enjoy the video, please consider subscribing and following along for more content like this. But for now, this is Scion Life, signing out.